Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Enlighten Up podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, and I get to introduce you to a brand new guest, I do want to say that it is literally only 24 hours after I just announced the new and latest 3-day 180 retreat, and we are already 30% sold out. I am so excited about that. I know so many of you guys are looking to absolutely get the biggest transformation of your life, and that's what we do in 3 days or less at the retreat. So if you've been thinking about wanting to come, I highly suggest you secure your ticket. You don't have to pay in full. We have a payment plan option, but I don't want you to miss out on this opportunity. Consuelo and I are so excited to bring you guys into what will be a most memorable moment in your life and possibly the most pivotal moment that completely puts you on the trajectory of your total destiny that you've been feeling like you're not exactly aligned with, but you know you deserve. So tickets for that are in the link below. But enough about that, because I'm really excited to introduce you to Kristin Windsor. She is a teacher and a mentor, and she helps to lead people to return home to their innate wholeness, reunify body, mind, and soul, and thrive through greater self-worth, confidence, joy, and inner freedom. And one of the reasons why I've decided to bring Kristin on the show is because we're going to be talking about the fact that you don't have to dive into all your trauma in order to heal. And that is like a big facet of how I'm helping people get their transformation. And so I really feel aligned with what Kristin's doing. What Kristin has learned how to do has been from self-healing over 100 debilitating health battles, 20 years of complex trauma, and 7 years of amnesia. She integrated her wisdom into one miracle method, which she uses neuroscience, consciousness, and infinite love, her Trifecta Treasure Trove, and provides unique approaches to parts, somatic, and mirror work for deep transformation. So, Kristin, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful and excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a lot to talk about here because your story is very deep. There's a lot to go into here. And I mean, first of all, it sounds like in your journey, you've probably looked at things that work, like they work, but to be really honest, they're a total waste of time.
Yeah, there's a better way. There's always a better way. And the more that we grow in awareness of who we are and how we experience the life we live and what's actually happening deeper beneath the surface and the result of the things that we do in terms of, how does it affect your brain and your body and the essence of who you really are, the more we can have these accelerated pathways that are much more enjoyable and create deeper results in our transformation.
Yeah. And I think it's also important that people understand that we're not necessarily advocating, like, you don't need to know any of your traumas. You don't need to don't worry about the healing. That's not what we're saying. Most people in my audience are very familiar with the healing journey. They've done some work. Some people have done extraordinary amounts of work. Right. But it does get to a point where one of the things that I've noticed is that people hit what I call healing fatigue. And that really depletes your ability to actually get over that hump that so many people feel like they're just like they know they're so close, but there's just this hump that they can't get over. And a lot of them are lacking the energy because they've done so much work or spent so much time in the past that they just almost get lost about what's even ahead of them.
Yeah, you get stuck in a healing loop, a cycle where you're focused on the thing that was there without a vision of where you're headed. And so a big emphasis of my work and my own personal journey and the journey I lead my clients through is all about the vision of what you want your inner realities to look and feel like. And you want your mind to feel like this luxurious, spacious mansion, and you want thoughts that feel like a loving best friend and emotions that feel like heaven on earth with more bliss, peace, joy, love, freedom, wholeness, and self-worth and confidence at the core of your identity. And that vision is so clear, and it has nothing to do with the past traumas. And so the past traumas are really a reference point to understand your deepest internal needs and to understand the patterns in the brain and the body. But that's it. It's a reference point of awareness so that you can have compassion for what you're going through, but it has nothing to do with the route for healing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So why? Like why do people think that is the route and why is it not the route?
Absolutely. So there's 5 key reasons that I explore about why to not work with the details of past experiences. The first is because you can't reach most of your memories if you try. Like, no matter how hard you try, no matter what technique you use, if you go through the deepest self-hypnosis or even EMDR, where you're in that brainwave state and you're using all these tricks and tools, you still cannot reach your memories. Most memories exist unconsciously. So even if you go in and, for example, my past self spent 10 years in different kinds of therapies, including EMDR, that repeatedly went into the details of past experiences, and healing never happened. Everything got worse. And it's because you can work with memories as much as you want through every modality imaginable, but no matter what you do, you are rarely connecting with the majority of memories because they exist unconsciously. And the second reason is because when you address memories, when you address the details of past experiences, you're not addressing the reason for memories. Neuroscience discovered that memories don't exist to store the past, like at all. Like, the neuroscientific purpose of memories has nothing to do with the past. And this was a huge breakthrough for my past self, because it was like, whoa, like, I don't need to go into the past because that's not the wiring of the memories now. Memories exist to navigate present and potential moments. And so I call them navigational networks instead of memories. Because when you think memories, you think past. Navigational networks is all about now and potential nows. And the third is because when you address the details of the past, you're leaving the present moment. You're leaving your power here and now. You're leaving parts of you that exist right here, right now within you and have a lot of internal needs. And you're giving your power away to something that's no longer here. You're looking back at something that's no longer here. And you're really forfeiting and abandoning that power. And
Let me jump in there
sorry.
for a second, really quickly,
Ah,
because one of the things that I've noticed too, and I actually had a client who I worked with recently, who was just struggling to like really move forward in her life, like, and she was well into her life, and just had these dreams still that she hadn't, lived, and she's still wanting to do it, and she's just, couldn't recognize like why she wasn't able to do it. And I what I realized was through her body, because I always look at the body, which I call the behind the scenes messaging system, right? Your body is such an important um, teacher and place of insight for you. All of her neck, shoulders, back were in such debilitating pain. It was all on the back side of her, right? All like tight, like where it was so painful, like couldn't move, and nothing, no matter how much massage or stretching or whatever she would do, would never relieve it. And what I found that she was doing was she was spending so much time healing her past lives. And she's like, I got to keep going into my past lives. I've already healed this lifetime. I'm like, why are you going into your past lives? This is the problem. You are giving so much, like you said, of your power to the past. that your body is starting to get pulled into the past. Like literally, like the back of you is like getting pulled in. And I'm like, if you don't let go of the past being as powerful, like being and of this idea that the back, the past is more powerful than your present and your future, then you're never going to be able to move forward. You're never going to be able to move forward. You're spending all your energy in the past. You got nothing left for here and now. And that's something that is really hard to navigate sometimes for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's where is your power? What do you do with your power? How do you use your power? What's the purpose of even having power? Why is it even there? How do you connect with it? Absolutely. And part of the reason that working with memories doesn't work is because you can't change information in the body from the mind. So like you were saying, it's all about the body, which I'll share more about, but you can't change those details of your body, the unconscious memories of your body, the responses, the feelings, the emotions, the sensations, by working from the mind. And that's another reason to not work with the details of the past. And when you are working with the existing information, it's hard to alchemize it into something new. And this is huge. When you go into the details of the past, you're growing that data. And so with that example, when you go into all the past details, the stuff that started to cause the tension in your body or whatever it is, reasons for that, you're making that information bigger inside of you. And that's growing. So you're growing the trauma when you look at, you're growing the past experiences in this life or past experiences in past lives. You're growing that information in your body instead of alchemizing it into something brand new.
Mm-hmm. Very, very true. Like when I think about when I healed sexual trauma as a child, I had a couple of flash memories come in that let me know, no, something definitely happened to me, but I didn't get the full picture. I didn't want to know I didn't need to know the full picture. Because I certainly didn't want to relive it and activate the trauma again. And like you said, it's not like I needed to go into the memory or the mind of it. What I needed to do was be in my body. I needed to feel the emotions. And so that's all I had to do was literally just connect with whatever emotions were arising. And there were a variety of different ones. That some of it was grief of the loss of my innocence. And then of course, anger at the loss of my innocence, like all these different things. And I just had to really sit with those emotions and just let them finally have a space to be felt. And as I felt them, they were literally leaving my body. And
Yeah.
so that is another thing that is like so important because sometimes, like you said, the mind cannot heal. Well, I don't want to say the mind cannot heal the body because that's not true. But I know what you're saying. It's like you can't do all the work in your head.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a difference too between like being in your head and like using your mind in
Yes.
connection with your body. If you're in
Yes.
your head, quote unquote, you're usually pretty disconnected from your body. But when you're emphasizing the mind body connection and your mind has awareness with the body and is consciously feeding it information while being in connection, that's where you can use the mind to create change.
Exactly. So, okay. I obviously I want to get into your story. Were there other reasons that we missed? Like, I just want to make sure I don't like move you on too quickly. Like, were
No,
there's
I
anything?
appreciate it. I think those are the main ones. You can't reach most of the memories from the mind. You can't totally change the information in the body just by working from that headspace of the details of what happened. And you often grow the existing data, which grows all the symptoms from it. And you leave your power, and it misses the purpose of memories because memories aren't there to store the past. Those are the 5 key reasons not to work with it. And so instead of doing that, the emphasis is to work with the navigational networks, not memories, to work with the body mind, not the conscious mind, to work with the unconscious memories, not the conscious memories, to learn how to alchemize the energy into something new rather than repeating the story that already exists and just changing the last sentence of it rather than just writing a whole new book, basically. And to really reclaim your power in the present moment, to feel the power that you have right here, right now, independent of every other moment, independent of every other experience. And when you feel that power, you have the ability to influence all of it, the unconscious memories, the body, mind, all of it in the present moment without going anywhere else.
I love how you said don't work with the conscious mind, work with the body mind, because that is something I literally was just on a call with a client today because I'm prepping her. I'm prepping her for her journey. And she, like, what was so cool was witnessing, and this, and I see this all the time, like, where, and this is how I know for myself as well. The body is your most truthful teller. Like, the story is the truest when it comes from your body, right? Like, if you want to know the truth, it is in your body. Your conscious mind is the version of you that maybe like knows all this stuff, but maybe wants to disconnect from the truth. We can be as conscious as we want, we can still disconnect from the truth, we can still live in some illusions. And so by really connecting with the body mind, how I know that I'm getting there, I'm actually getting truth, is when I start to feel emotions that surprise me out of nowhere, right? Like the sudden tears or the sudden, like, whatever it might be. And I'm like, whoa, where did that just come from? Like, that is fidelity. That's truth. That's how you know you hit the gold mine.
I love that. Oh my gosh, chills. The biggest breakthroughs in my journey were moments where I was full body laughing until I cried. I'm talking full body weeping and sobbing. And it was everything. It was the grief and the rage and the anger and just the mourning of how much of me and my life I've lost to this horrific darkness that we're transforming. And it was the sheer ecstasy and joy and bliss and liberation and gratitude by the fact that I'm alive. I'm alive to process it. I'm alive to write a new story. And it was so much feeling. And it was like the nervous system was shedding what it had been holding on to and was being upgraded so that more of my true self could be inside of my body.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this is one of the hardest parts too, when you get onto like the spiritual path, and you're starting to work with energies and you're starting to connect with things that are so far beyond this reality, this physical reality, that it's like, oh, I just want to play out there all the time. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, that's fun and that's good and it's helpful. Like, you can still be connected to there, but you got to always be in your body when you're connected to there, right? And we have this inclination and this instinct sometimes to just like, no, I want to leave. And it's like, no, 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 all the best stuff happens when you're rooted in your body. So being there, and that means you got to feel everything. You got to feel
Yeah.
everything. So with all that being said, I mean, 100 debilitating health battles and 7 years of amnesia. Like, take me through that. What happened?
So pretty crazy stuff. That's kind of an understatement. And it's always interesting because I'm still always learning to process it because like, yeah, I am still healing from 7 years of amnesia and that's where I'm at. That's okay. So basically, once upon a time, my inner evolutionary hero or past version of self reached, the epic rock bottom that catalyzes the greatest forms of expansion of the universe. And she was living with complex PTSD. At that point, she had been in past therapies for like 10 years. Nothing had worked. She'd been on every medication in the book, had, really trusted the mental health care system before, expanding awareness and all that good stuff. And complex PTSD had just gotten so bad. There'd just been so many things over the years that started to lose the ability to create new memories. And then that began just a new healing. And so during that time, it was the worst CPTSD you can possibly imagine, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, like the slightest sounds would just send the full body into such a stress response. It was, I'm curling up and hiding, or I'm running down the street because the flight response, there's just so much chaos, and couldn't taste food, couldn't hear the birds singing, couldn't process information. The body was constantly reliving traumas from 20 years of complex, not good things, horrors. And the mind was just like 1,000 voices, and none of them felt like me. The mind and the body were completely disconnected from each other. There was no awareness of accurately assessing what was happening in the body in any moment. There was aphasia, the loss of language centers, chronically not being able to speak or understand words or read or even internally think and narrate yourself, complete loss of language centers. Cerebral hypoxia, oxygen deprivation because of the nervous system dysregulation. So my past self was on oxygen tubes every hour, every day for several years to heal that. There's tachycardia and bradycardia and vasovagal syncope, like all these things, the heart rate variability, loss of consciousness, split brain hemispheres where could only access half of the body or half of the brain at a time. Total mind body disconnect, every mental health battle imaginable. And I mean, like literally everyone: eating disorders, obsessive compulsions, insomnia, night terrors, self-harm, substance abuse, like every single thing you can possibly imagine. And there was really severe amnesia. And so there was the dissociative amnesia, because there was so much fragmentation of self. There was like 20 different states of self that had amnesic barriers between each other. And several of those were age regressive states of consciousness, where the brain and the body would revert to early stages of neurodevelopment because of suppressed childhood trauma that was at the root of everything. And then with those amnesic barriers, aspects of self didn't really know what was happening when a different state of self was present. And then there was the anterograde amnesia, where my brain was resetting every 5 seconds to 5 minutes, and there was no orientation of what was happening, didn't know who I was, where I was, what was going on. And for nearly half a decade, there were zero personal memories being created, zero autobiographical memories being formed at all. And so the ability to say, yeah, last week I went to the park with my friend, that simple thing that we just take for granted in everyday life, wasn't there for nearly half a decade. And I was able to self-heal all of that without any external guidance at all, by researching neuroscience, developing my own trial and error process of self-healing. And I came out the other side like, oh, this is amazing. It's so much better than it's ever been. Like unity in all parts of self. The mind is so quiet, full connection with the body. I can feel every sensation. I can taste food, like no mental health battles at all. Like all of them were resolved. There was no residual impacts of like reliving past traumas. Like I thought I was free and clear, and started to form new memories again. And then I realized I couldn't remember my entire life. I couldn't remember those past years of healing. I couldn't remember my adulthood before the amnesia. I couldn't remember my childhood. I had no memories, and I still couldn't recognize myself in a mirror. That had been going on for a long time. And so then I self-healed all of that, again, independent, without any external guidance at all. And I never had to work with the details of past experiences to achieve that. And so a big part of that journey was not just healing the trauma or the residual impacts, but rewiring and rebuilding my brain from the ground up, rebuilding my brain and my body from like nothingness into something completely brand new. And in the journey, becoming my own happily ever after. That was a big theme, continues to be a big theme of it, is, you know, you want to be better off than before anything happened. You want to be more because of the journey, not like, oh, I'm starting from square one. I've spent all these years healing and now I'm just like barely beginning my life. Like you want to be able to come out the other side empowered and really in love with who you are and in love with the life that you can create for yourself. And so the purpose isn't just to resolve the disruption, but to really expand into all that you can be. So that's a little snapshot of my journey.
That's a really big snapshot. Okay, we have a lot to dig into there. So, where to start? I think, okay, so you're kind of really you're looking for solutions, right? You're like, okay, the first thing is, what is it like to look in the mirror and not recognize yourself?
Oh, fascinating. And even beyond that, there was a long time, because of the split brain hemispheres and the mind body disconnect, would look in a mirror and there was no connection between inner and outer realities. It was like trying to watch two movies at the same time and coherently follow them. Like what was happening inside of self was, the thoughts and the feelings and the sense of self and the ideas. And then you look outside and you're like, wait, there's a world out there. There was no connection at all.
Mm.
From what I can remember, it sucked. Is really uncomfortable. It's like full body discomfort of like, I'm terrified that I don't know who I'm looking at when it's supposedly me. When my past self first started to do mirror work in 2018, she would look in a mirror and half of her face would detach from her body, be about a foot in front of her face and several inches below. And it was a very psychosis styled experience, but it was just because the stuff that helps you navigate existence, which is your brain and your body and the wiring and the stuff going on, was so disrupted. There was just so much not well-being going on. And it was it caused full body panic attacks. And so the first step towards this radical self-love and this deep healing was, how can I be present with the terror that I feel and show up to look at myself in a mirror when it is the last thing I want to do? And she practiced that every single day for a year, and it started to completely change her reality. And that's where I started to develop my own mirror practices.
What was it like for your family and friends? Like, what have they said from their experience of like witnessing you, or what it was for like for them? Like, I'm curious, how did they navigate that?
Um, That's a tough question because I didn't have a lot of friends in the process, and my family doesn't really provide a lot of verbal feedback.
Okay.
But it was definitely an interesting journey, and I was grateful to, have people in my life in the journey, but they didn't understand what was happening. They didn't know how to respond or what to do about it. And so it was really a lot of me just taking radical responsibility for what was happening and spending a lot of time alone, especially in mirrors, and really just focusing on engaging socially within parts of myself and allowing that to be the highlight of my social life.
That's totally understandable. And so what was the pivotal moment that kind of like the light switch gets flicked, everything starts to make sense. So you're like, oh, this is what I need to do. Like where you started to see the turnaround. Like what happened there?
The first key was when my past self found a book about healing the fragmented selves of trauma survivors. And it talked about parts work in relation with your brain hemispheres and your nervous system. And at that point, my past self was still in therapies and on psychiatric medications. And after 10 years of being in different therapies, nobody had ever mentioned her nervous system. Nobody had ever mentioned these like very scientific based things. And she was like, oh my goodness, there's an actual scientific reason that I'm experiencing this. Like up until then, it's in your head, right? Not understanding that your brain and your body creates the experience of your mind. And so that was kind of a first, like, oh, wow, there's a deeper reason this is happening, which means there's a different path of healing, because if you know what's happening, you know what to do about it. And then from there, it was just kind of miracle after miracle of this journey of going inward and really being divinely guided to every insight that I needed, because this path was created without any external guidance every step of the way. Even figuring out that there was cerebral hypoxia was something that was done in my own implicit revelations case study. There was breakthroughs of watching videos and being like, wow, like this person had this head trauma, and after that head trauma or this stroke or whatever it was, they couldn't speak. And when they went to speak, they would come out and just say the word two, 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 two. And that was the only word they could say. Or they could sing, but they couldn't talk. And those were all symptoms that my past self was experiencing. She's like, whoa, it's because of this thing going on in my brain. So it was detail after detail. And then when there were moments of finding stuff that worked, like sitting in the mirror, like when my past self, I don't have full memory of it, but I found articles she's written and stuff from back when she was experiencing it. But when she would go look in a mirror, again, half the face detached from the body, it felt very psychosis, like a bad acid trip, full body anxiety. She would sit in the mirror, and by doing that consistently, the anxiety started to decrease. She felt more connected. Afterwards, she could taste food more than she could before. And it was like, whoa, like this is working. This is helping. And there were moments of deep, what I refer to as like a relieved collapse of the nervous system, kind of like if the nervous system's held on to trauma and you go in and you press a button that says, okay, you can let go. And it's like, like that. And to find the things that help you get there. And it was a combination of the 5 steps that I'll share with you, but really expanding the awareness, connecting with your body, creating these relational experiences in the self where the parts of self started to feel their deepest inner needs met from within, and just creating practices that really tailored to what was working, what was helping.
Let's talk about that for a second, that part of letting go and how important the letting go, the relief, the not holding on so tightly is when it comes to healing. Because I mean, you can hold on to the past, you can hold on to a narrative, you can hold on to a belief, like whatever it might be. And one of the reasons why, when I'm working with clients, and especially like at the retreat, when we're doing medicine journeys, the key before we ever get to the medicine journey is you have to let go before you get there, because you need to get out of your own way. You need to let what's naturally able to happen to happen. Otherwise, when we're holding on to so many things, like we don't realize we're not allowing things to move. We're not allowing things to connect. We're not allowing things to actually move where they have to go. Right. So can you kind of go a little deeper into what you've learned through that whole process of why, like when your nervous system was able to like let go and go, oh my God, finally, like the healing was able to come in faster?
The first thing that comes to mind is a little memory that I have recovered with the amnesia healing, which again, never had to work with details of past experiences to do. But my past self was riding her bike and listening to a song that says, "Leave what's heavy behind you." And she was riding this bicycle and she was literally singing at the top of her lungs. And yeah, I'm sure everyone around there, I'm sure there were people around her neighbors that have windows open. And I'm sure they were like, oh my God, she needs to not sing that loud, right? But in that moment, you're teaching your body a new way to feel. And when you're singing at the top of your lungs, leave what's heavy behind you while you feel the breeze in your, against your skin as you're riding a bicycle. That's the opposite of trauma. You're teaching your body the opposite sensation of trauma. And the moment that you do that, you give your brain, your body, your nervous system, and all parts of self permission to let go in a very energetic and somatic way, where anything that does feel heavy is going to come up and be like, oh, wow, I'm really heavy. And now I'm getting shed. And that's where you do, full body shaking or dancing or sobbing and laughing and crying and deep emotional somatic releases and, chanting and grounding in your voice and that vagal toning and all the magic. But that moment where you feel the opposite of what trauma was in order to teach your body a new state of being. And so when there's trauma, there's a high impact, a moment of high impact, great intensity where you are separated from love. Like it can just be summarized as that. Like you can go into all the details and how it, deactivates your brain's frontal lobes and the mohawk of self-awareness and splits your brain hemispheres and dysregulates your nervous system and like all this stuff. But simply put, moments of trauma, little t or capital T trauma, moments of high intensity where you are separate from love. And so if you can create moments of high intensity where you are reconnected with love from within without conditions, you are healing every residual impact of trauma with one simple focus.
I love that so fucking much. I hope everyone like goes back and listens to that like 5 times, because that is exactly what happens. Like, so I've experienced that with like a Kundalini awakening, right? Like an activation of like, I've gone into such high states of bliss, which I have then utilized that knowing, because once you are aware of that energy, you can tap into it anytime you want. Like and so I would then instead, I'm like, instead of using my meditation practice to sit in silence or sit in peace, which is, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm like, I want to be in fucking joy. I want to be in like the highest bliss state of like excitement and whatever. And I'm going to just start envisioning like whatever it is that I want from like that place. And it's so healing. There's something so healing about literally giving your permission to create from a space of that high level love, excitement, joy, just absolute pure bliss. And that's why when I do a lot of the work now, it's like, ask anyone who's like come to my last retreat, who does journeys with me. We do not focus on your traumas. We may get a few little details here and there, but like it's not about that. And that's why when a lot of people will go into their journeys, they're going into this high bliss state because I'm prepping you to go for bliss, to go for joy, to experience the state, like you said, that is so connected to love that reminds you what is possible.
Yeah,
And that is
absolutely.
like, that's why you don't have to go into all your traumas. Like, yes, you do need awareness. You need to know what the feelings are. Like, that is important. You need to honor those things. But the fastest transformation, as soon as you can reconnect to that pure love, which let's just talk about what is the state of creation? The fucking orgasm. That is the state of creation. So go into the state of the orgasm to heal. I mean,
Yes,
way better place to heal if you ask me.
absolutely. And it's healing from the somatic level. When you're in an orgasmic state, for example, you're feeling everything good in every cell of your body, and you're teaching your body a new state of being. You're teaching your body a way to navigate self and life from a new process of feeling what it means to be alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love this. I love this so much. And so, okay, there are, listen, we're talking about healing. You can skin a cat so many different ways, right? Infinite ways to skin a cat. And that's what we're talking about, healing. Like there's so many different ways you can go about this. And it's not that any of them are wrong. And it's not like what any of us have done in the past is necessarily wrong. It's just there are better ways. And so if you're someone who's ready for a new way and you haven't tried this method, it's totally worth it because this is really like the rapid way to heal. So, okay, there's so much here and I don't want to like be jumping all around the place even though it's probably what's going to
I'll share
happen.
something. I'll
Okay,
share.
please
I have a
do.
couple things that are coming to mind. So one is the process of enlightenment meeting embodiment, and how we can actually connect with the essence of our soul and allow the true self to come in and heal the brain and the body for us. And that's a process of more awareness, more love, and more presence. And it's as simple as that. If you prioritize awareness, love, and presence in your everyday life, then you are naturally connecting with your soul or consciousness or divine self. And the power of who you really are can come in with the force of the universe at its back and completely quantum heal your brain and your body. And in that process, I think we had mentioned something like this earlier, where you go through a spiritual awakening. It's easy to be like, yeah, I meditate and I'm on my mountaintop and I'm blissed out, but I'm totally disconnected from my body and like what my human is actually going through, right? But then you come back in the body and you might feel disconnected from your soul or your awareness or your love or the feeling good of being in your own presence. And so the goal is to unite those. And that's the journey I lead my one-on-one clients through. And the journey that changed my life was really realizing, wait a second, like I'm not this brain, I'm not this body, and every moment is already rewiring it. So if I can distinguish my identity from my experience, then the essence of who I really am can come in and rewire everything. And that was like the focal point. Like I found videos that I have no memory of recording of my past self from like 2019-ish. And she was talking about this exact concept. And every time I find those videos, my jaw drops and I just sit there in silence for like ever. And I'm just like, my mind is so blown right now because my truth has stayed the same, even without memory of it. And so, how can you distinguish the truth of who you are from what you're going through? And that's another reason why going into the details of trauma or anything from the past is so, or can be so detrimental, because you're missing the opportunity to be there for parts of who you really are. Those aspects of self have only ever learned to associate with their existence based on the data inside of them from the past, but that's not who they are. And the moment that you can feel the truth of who you are through love and wholeness inside of your body, those aspects of self are liberated. You retrieve those aspects of self. It's like a soul retrieval. Those parts of you from the past are free immediately in the present moment through the present information in your brain and your body. And it never had anything to do with the past. A lot of times people are so inclined to want to go there is because there are these parts of self saying, I need help. I need healing. I need wholeness. I need peace. I need to feel seen. I need to feel loved. And so there's this natural inclination of I'm trying to heal. I want to be there for parts of me. And it feels like this is where I need to go to do that. But that's kind of part of the illusion that we get to dismantle, is because those parts of self just have never gotten to know who they are without it. Like in 2019, my past self was expecting to live the rest of her life with complex PTSD and a mind-body disconnect. Like she was planning her life around that because that was her reality. It's how she knew to associate with her existence. And she had no evidence that something else was possible. And so the journey isn't just the healing and the rewiring the stuff, but it's how can you learn to associate with your existence in a brand new way that has nothing to do with the pain or the trauma.
Let me ask you a question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I still want to ask it because I think there's going to be people in my audience who are wondering. Why are you using she to describe yourself?
Yes, I love that. So that's part of the parts work that I do. And there's several different reasons. One is because it's very just helpful with the amnesia, because even when I can look back and remember things, none of that feels like me. I'm literally a different person. My brain is completely rewired. It's literally like looking at a completely different person, and there really isn't an association with her in a healthy way, because I am no longer that person. I am
Yeah, you're
the
not like
person.
denying it, like because you
Right.
don't like it. You're just like, it's just not who I am anymore.
Yeah. Because at that time, she knew that that wasn't her true self, and she was trying to get to this point right here. Another reason is because when the brain and the body hear they hear the present moment, but and there's an association with it. There's this over identification with it. But when there's distinction, then you're not stuck in navigating from that energy. And so I
Yeah.
have a relationship with my past self, but I am not my past self.
Got you. And I think that's important because words are very important. The words we use hold a lot of value. And every time we tell our story, this is why I don't like to go into my past anymore. And it's not because it doesn't have value and it is a part of my story, but it's not who I am anymore, right? And so every time I'm finding like I want to just kind of gloss over some of those things now. Like I just really don't want to spend time there because I don't want to keep reinforcing the old narrative
Exactly.
and anchoring myself to that identity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So, all right. Well, what, when it comes to healing, you're not going to go into the traumas. Obviously, you're kind of looking at this more ecstatic state of love, right? How do you get someone to that state who maybe has no idea what that even fucking feels like?
Fuck yes. There's 5-step process that I use, and it's so beautiful because honestly, there's a million ways you can kind of achieve this. I have my own specific way that I go about it. But the first step is just expanded self-awareness, right? Like you have to be able to be the observer of yourself within experience, and to just have awareness of what's happening inside of you without being succumbed to it, to have that gapped in order to have a new conscious response. The second is to have a way to connect with your body, to feel presence in your body. And that's kind of the preliminary foundation. And then the third step or stage is to have a conscious relationship between parts of self. And that's where parts work comes in. My parts work is very different from most traditional models, though, because it differentiates the aspects of self from parts of the body mind by understanding the energies of consciousness or the identity of the soul in relationship with the brain hemispheres, the front middle back brain, attachment development, 10 states of the autonomic nervous system, your body's unconscious memories, etc. And so by understanding this, there's a new way to work with parts. But the third step stage is to have a conscious relationship between distinct aspects of self, right? So you're able to practice awareness, be the observer of yourself and experience. You have practices to feel presence in your body, to feel grounded and regulated, whatever that looks like. Then it's, okay, there's these two parts of me, and you can do this, the present moment self and the childhood self. the mind and the body, the masculine and the feminine, the present moment self and the past self, like I was doing when describing things. There's different ways to do it, but you have two different parts of the self. And then through your awareness and presence in your body, you start to facilitate a relational experience between them. And there's lots of different ways to do this. Mirror work is my personal favorite. If you look in a mirror, the self who sees is distinct from and connected with the self being seen in the mirror, and you're having a relational experience. You're mirroring the process of social engagement that actually first developed our brain and body into being, starting in early childhood. And then if there are traumas, they're usually relational traumas, like the majority of traumas are relational traumas, something that happened with another person. And here and now, you're experiencing life through your brain and your body, and it has to do with the relationship you have with you and the relationship between your brain hemispheres, et cetera. And so it comes down to these relational experiences. And so once there's distinct aspects of self, there can be a new type of relationship instead of just, I'm my human self here and now, and there's all this stuff going on. It's, oh, there's my mind, and then there's my body. There's the me here now, and there's the me here then. Different ways to practice that. And then the fourth step or stage is to fulfill your deepest internal needs emotionally and somatically. And this includes the need to feel seen, loved, valued, wanted, appreciated, celebrated, safe, secure, supported, connected, accepted for who you are. There's a whole list of needs that we go through. But once you can pinpoint those deepest internal needs, and this could be in relation with past traumas, but what those parts of you need here right now, or just in general, what those deepest internal needs are. And how can you fulfill that through this new relational experience, through expanded awareness and full connection with your body? So the step stages build on each other. And once you can create that feeling, fulfill those needs, once you have a way to see those parts of you in a way that they can emotionally and somatically felt in your body, actually receive the fact that they are seen, they are loved, they are valued, and they feel that inside of them. The fifth final stage is where you get to feeling ecstatic love inside of your body. And I actually just shared something the other day, was very specifically, what's better than orgasms? What's better than drugs like ecstasy? What's better than that? And what's better than that is feeling your wholeness, is feeling these full body emotional releases, is feeling unconditional love inside of your body, is feeling this relational experience within yourself where you are able to meet all of your needs right here, right now, in the present moment. So every part of you from the past who never felt seen and loved, and that could be from 20, 30, 40 years of experiences, all of those parts are feeling that love that they always needed right here and now in your body, in the present moment, from this expanded awareness in full conscious relation with all parts of you. And when you feel that ecstatic love inside of you, there is a quantum ripple of healing where the past gets healed, your present brain body wiring gets healed, the potential of your future gets healed, and all these fragmented parts of self or aspects of the soul return home. And when you feel your wholeness, where you can literally sit in a mirror, because I still love my mirror practices. They are the greatest part of my life. I can friggin' go in there and it literally feels like I have everything in the world, like everything you could possibly desire existing in that moment, just because you are present with all of you. Like I am in love with the experience of how it feels to give and receive love to parts of me. And when you're in that wholeness, everything is just, it's complete. You're enough. You have everything you want. You are the love that you need. You become your own happily ever after. You become your own heaven on earth.
Mm. Wow. Like that's intense. That's like a really, like, what I really enjoy about that is that the part where you're talking about that part of you that where the needs are, like really connecting to what are the most primal needs that you have, because each of us, it's going to be different, right? Like each of us has like a particular, maybe one or two needs that are at the top tier. Like this is the thing that I need the most. And when you isolate which one it actually is, or maybe it's two, but it's never like a whole bunch, right? Like there's usually like just one or two that if you can actually pinpoint those, when you feel that, all the other ones just somehow get fed as well, like it's like this ripple effect.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important for people to understand that, like when we work with our healing journey and we're looking for like, hey, what's the next step? What am I supposed to do? There's a lot of information you're working with, like a lot of information. It's knowing which piece of information is the thing that's gonna like take care of it all. Because you
Yeah.
can go in and you can start working with all these little different things and start healing them individually. But there are parts of you that if you tackle those specific things, it just, everything else just falls into place.
Yes. Yeah. And you really want to get to the foundation rather than working from the surface. Because a lot of times when you come in the healing, it's, I have these thoughts I don't like to think. They're not nice. They don't support me. I have this habit, this behavior pattern, this choice I keep making, and I don't know how to choose something different. I have these emotions that don't feel good. Whatever it is. And you look at the surface symptoms, and then maybe you're like, oh, well, it started because of this trauma. And so the big thing I emphasize is we're not working with the surface symptoms. You're not responding to those thoughts. You're not responding to those emotions. You're not even directly addressing them. You're not looking at the past details. You're going in and understanding why it's there, how it's affecting parts of you beyond awareness, and what your deepest internal need is. Those thoughts are there because of a pattern in the brain body wiring, because of these past experiences that didn't meet the needs. So if you pinpoint the need and you have a relational experience between parts of self where you feel love emotionally and somatically inside of your body, then the thoughts will change naturally. You don't have to try and reprogram your mind and change your mindset and speak all these affirmations. You can work from the somatic emotional level, and those thoughts, what? I have no memory of even thinking those thoughts. It's such ancient history because you worked with the foundation that precedes the experience.
This is why, like, the mindset work, the affirmation work, it's tedious. It's so tedious. Like, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of diligence. Like, you got to be on it. And it does work. But shit, man, like, this is why, like, your body is like your number one, like, it's the most valuable tool you have in this entire existence. Like, this is, it just, it blows my mind even when I go back to think about it, because throughout my journey, my body was my nemesis. Like, I just remember hating my body. I had such a disordered relationship with my body, and not in the way that most people would think. I mean, a lot of my people who've been following me know that it was just because it wouldn't move in the way that I wanted to. Like, it was inflexible, and I hated that about it. And so I found a reason to like hate my body, right? But at the end of the day, when I started to go through a deep part of my awakening in my early 30s, I realized my body was capable of teaching me the most important information that I needed to know in this life, in this journey. It had everything I needed to know. And that's why I dedicated my book Inflexible Me to my greatest teacher, my body. And it still continues to be one of my greatest teachers. It's because it's like it knows how to do everything superiorly. Like, the technology of the skin suit is pretty phenomenal when you start to actually work with it in the way that it was designed to. But so much of this world, this existence, teaches us to go against it, like, don't feel this, don't feel that, don't move this way, don't, go over here, stay over there. Like, like, it's just, it's such a disconnect. And then, of course, going into the spiritual journey, the first inclination is like, oh, there's amazing shit on the other side of this dimension. I want to go over there. Let me get out of this body. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's like, yes, yes, you can learn. You got to learn. But it's like the ultimate goal is this body is literally the greatest vessel ever. And so no wonder this world wants you to make it sick. No wonder this world wants you to eat this shit and not that stuff that's really good for you. Pump it with this and not that. Like, there's just so many things. Like, the body is capable of so much more than we realize. And it is it's your best friend in this entire journey.
I cannot nod my head yes enough to emphasize yes, yes to all of that.
My
I had
body agrees. Yes, my
Yeah, my
body
body
agrees.
fully agrees with this. Yeah, my past self, such a distorted relationship with the body. Like, I mean, self-harm for over 10 years. Like, I still have over 150 scars all over my body because the body was the enemy. And suicidality, suicide attempts regularly for over a decade, like would do anything to not be in the body. And now I will do everything to be in my body. And so it's really, yeah, just returning to wholeness and deeper connection.
I literally just got off a call with a client, literally just got off a call with a client before we recording this. And I said to her, your body and its ability to move is literally the gateway to your most happiest life. Like
Mm.
all of your happiness, everything that you are joyful in is waiting for you through the body, like moving it. And it's amazing. And I know she knows that. And but it's like we have so much resistance in ourselves, like that's like, well, no, it's got to be something else, right? Like maybe it's my belief, maybe it's like, maybe if I just change my mindset, or maybe if I just get to that trauma. And it's like, no, 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 just move your body, get into your body and start doing this thing. And it's like, oh my God, like fastest things, even like, you know, when I've seen the miracles that happen with people, literal miracles, when they're so embodied in that, like whatever emotion is needed to be felt, the most. It's not always happiness. It isn't always happiness, like sometimes it's just that sadness or this grief. It just needs to be allowed. But then, like, what happens when you allow that? The happiness comes in next.
Yeah, yeah. When you release, well, what I found too is when you alchemize the opposite of what you desire, that's the natural gateway for expansion. So the more that I've allowed myself to grieve things, for example, the more ecstasy and joy I'm able to feel on the other side of that. And I've learned to appreciate them equally. A lot of times we put the positive feelings on a pedestal and yeah, I want the bliss and the joy, but like, let's do everything to escape the things that don't feel good. But it's like, no, they're the same thing. It's two sides to the same coin. You can't have one without the other. And the deeper that you allow yourself to go into the grief and the anger, not to stay there, but to release it and alchemize it and return those parts of you to their wholeness, the more you expand into the higher emotions that you're really desiring. And it's in a fully embodied way, not a dysregulated way, and not something where you need all these things outside of you to get there and it's not sustainable or whatever. It's that becomes your natural state of being. Like the whole journey that I lead my clients through is you're repatterning your body to feel bliss. It's not,
Mhm.
I'm going to go meditate and do all these things and go achieve all these goals and then I'll feel bliss and joy. It's you're repatterning your body. So you wake up and that's your natural state of being, just like breathing. It's just inside of the cells of your body because you did the work to create that.
Well, yeah, and you just naturally realigned yourself. Like you went back to like the natural blueprint, right? Like
Yeah.
so okay, to close out, I would love to know what is, and maybe you've already said it, but there's been so much information here. So if you have, I deeply apologize. But what is your most powerful healing intention that you use?
Yes, the most powerful healing intention is to create a high intensity moment of reconnecting with love through that practice of having a social interaction with yourself. And that moment, it is in the moment where you feel a relational connection between aspects of you, the moment where you feel the fulfillment of your deepest internal needs, the moment where you feel unconditional love inside of your body. That's the moment that healing happens. And it's a healing that transcends any other kind of healing where it's deeper, it lasts longer, it has deeper results. And so if there's any practice, the goal is those 5 steps to really expand self-awareness, to practice presence in your body, to have a way of having a new kind of relational connection between distinct parts of the self, to really uncover those deepest internal needs and have practices that fulfill them emotionally and somatically, and to create that feeling of love in your body. And when there's moments of high intensity reconnecting with love, you're really quantum ripple healing everything past, present, and future.
I agree. And so, really quickly, just so people understand, why have a powerful and healing intention? Like, what is the power of an intention?
The clarity will guide you to everywhere you need to be, even if you don't know how. If you have no roadmap, but you have an intention, the infinite forces of life itself and the wisdom of your body and the epicness of your soul will lead you every step of the way. Like my past self never imagined healing was possible. She had no idea what she was doing. And she was able to achieve 100% resolution completely on her own and create a brand new modality based in neuroscience and the understanding of your soul. Like it's a brand new modality using combination of different things in a new way. And it creates this profound healing. And so when you have the intention, it can become your roadmap, even if you don't know the road.
Exactly. So well said. Like this is why when we're doing the journeys at like whether it's someone I'm guiding someone on their own or we're doing a healing retreat, one of the most powerful parts of the entire journey is the intention. I always say this is your North Star. This is what's going to always guide you to where you need to be. Even if you're not sure where you're at, this is what's always going to get you back on track, right? And it's like the intention is so well formed when you have such a well formulated intention that you don't need, like you said, it doesn't matter if you know how to get there because you're not supposed to necessarily know how to get there. Like that's why we're doing the whole thing, right? Like, but you've got to be willing to surrender to being taken there. Like, you know, like you're going to get taken there in a way. And so this is what is so important. Like when I think about my very first mushroom journey that I did a couple years ago, my intention was show me the greatest version of myself and how to actualize it now. I have no idea. I had no idea like where I was going to go or how I was going to go, but that was my intention, you know, like show me something that I don't know where I've ever been or where I'm supposed to go, how to get there. But like, that's my intention. And one of the ingredients to preparing for miracles to happen is the human intention. When you have that human intention aligned with a few other necessary ingredients, like that's what prepares miracles.
I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this has been fantastic, Kristin. I've loved the conversation. I've learned a lot as well. And it was also great to hear your version of like from your perspective and your words too, because it helped me also integrate some of the things I've known in a different way, which I always appreciate. So can you let my audience know like where they can find you if they want to work with you? How do they get in touch with you? And if you have anything else going on, like please take this opportunity to promote yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. So first you can find me on Instagram. Send me a message. Just let me know, hey, I listened to this podcast episode. I would just love to hear from you and connect. You can also enter my magic portal. It's where you get weekly emails from me. You get access to 5 years worth of free playbooks, 5 years worth of free playbooks through the magic portal. And you receive exclusive invitations to the free workshops that I host approximately every month and different speaking engagements that I have. Transformed Summit is one of the things coming up. It starts on November 11th, completely free. It's like a 4-day event. There's a whole panel of speakers. So you can find all that. You can enter my magic portal for free. And then if you want to dive deeper, I do have spaces available in my 3 or 6 month one-on-one mentorship called Soma Soul Love. And we really dive into this journey of reconnecting all parts of you in body, mind, soul. We treasure map your inner soul family to understand the wiring of your brain, body, and subconscious, or your body, mind. And once we unveil the root cause of your personal experience and the identity of your true self, even beyond what's happening, then we can have deeper connection with all parts of you and create these practices that really address the root cause, not just the surface symptoms. And you never need to go into the details of the past to heal any residual impacts from it. And then we go in and have daily practices you use to go through those 5 steps that I mentioned, where you're expanding awareness, connecting with your body, creating these relational experiences between distinct parts of self, fulfilling those deepest needs in a way that you can emotionally and somatically feel in your body, and really creating that energy of unconditional love inside of body, mind, soul that has the power to totally transform every area of life from the inside out. And then I lead my clients deeper through eye gazing practices and mirrors through a technique I've developed. Really powerful journey. So you can find all the details about that in the link. I'm sure we'll have the link in the showcase
Oh
notes or
yeah,
whatever.
I'm going to leave all the links in the details below. Yeah.
Perfect. And then you can always reach out to me on Instagram, and we can, go through the client intake process and make sure it's a good fit. And I do also have other offerings in my business if you're not yet ready for that higher level of support. So you can check all that out on my website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure, Kristin, to have you on the show. And to my audience, definitely check out Kristin's work. She's got a wealth of information to share with you. And I love it when it's someone who's personally overcome all their stuff and they're using their own methods. I'm a huge fan of that. So I just want to give you your flowers, Kristin, because you certainly deserve them. And to everyone else out there, if you've been wanting to come to the 3-Day 180, this is what we do as well. We are going to look at all of your information, and I'm going to pick out the exact thing that's going to crumble the crack in your wall. Like whatever that is, I'm going to find that thing that absolutely everything comes crumbling down and remove what's ever in your way to you having the experience that completely changes your life. And remember, you do not need to heal through endless sadness and all the other things of pain. You can actually heal through bliss and orgasmic pleasure. So pick which route you want to go. It's your free will choice, but I think I know what many of you would like to pick. Do you just have enough courage to do it for yourself? That is the question. But I'd love to have you at the retreat. We're already selling out, so tickets are in the link below. Guys, have an incredible week, and I will see you next time. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.